Coming through. All right, guys. It looks like we were having some technical difficulties today, and I don't know if the chat is going to work. My husband and I were over here trying to figure all that out. But make sure you have a piece of paper and a pencil. This is definitely something you're not going to want to miss today. We are going over the X method, which is kind of difficult and fun at the same time because you're solving a big problem. And so I like it. I think it's fun. But good morning, guys. So as I said, piece of paper, pencil, we need to make sure you have those things so you can take your own notes. I think this video is going to be much better than Edgenuity, so stay with me, follow along here, rewatch this as many times as you want. We're going to be covering this concept for like the next week, so take advantage of this time you have now. All right? With that being said, I am Mrs. Woods. I know some of you guys are from other classes, so welcome. And please ask questions if possible. You can send me a text via Remind, an email, anything like that. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with our try this. Our try this is right here. We're looking at factoring by pulling out the GCF. Yesterday, we worked on double grouping. So we pulled out the GCF of each part. Now we are going to pull out the GCF of just this one expression. So take about 30 seconds, see if you can beat me. Remember, if you need Desmos, you can pull up Desmos here, right here. Desmos, ooh, maybe not. We'll see if I'll be able to get Desmos working for me. You can pull up Desmos. Remember, Desmos is just GCD and then your numbers. All right, we'll see if this is going to work today. There we go. Perfect. All right, so go ahead and complete the try this. You have number 1 and number 2 here. Okay, about 30 seconds. Flash. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. I have negative 2x to the 6th plus 12x cubed. Now remember, that first number has a negative in front, so we know we have to pull out a negative for sure. Now if we look at Desmos and we pull up GCD of 2 and 12, my greatest common factor is 12. Oh, I wanted you to just go away. Or it's 2, not 12. 2. Now I have x to the 6th and x to the 3rd. So what do they both have? X to the 3rd. Now remember, my GCF goes on the outside in front of my parentheses. And so I'm going to write my parentheses right here. If I take out negative 2x to the 3rd from the first part, let's see, negative 2x. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is just 1. I could write 1 there or not because 1 is always there. X to the 6th, I have 6. I take away 3. How many do I have left? X to the 3rd. That's a weird little x. All right, and then 12 divided by negative 2. Negative 6. I have x to the 3rd. I'm dividing out x to the 3rd. So I'm just left with that. All right, so there's number 1. Let's look at number 2. I have 7, 14, and 28. 7, negative 14, and 28. Does that first number have a negative in front? Okay, then I am not going to pull out a negative. So I'm going to just set up here my parentheses, make sure that I write with enough space because I kind of wrote big in the last one. Let's pull up our Desmos here. I'm going to try and make this. It's being weird this time. We'll just, there we go. GCD 7, 14, and 28. My greatest common factor is 7. So that means I'm going to have a 7 out front. Now, each of these have a variable. I have m cubed, m squared, and m. So what do they all have? M. Perfect. So 7m cubed. If I divide this by 7m, I'm left with just m squared. Negative 14, m squared. Factor out 7m, negative 2m. 28m, factor out 7m, plus 4m. Not 4m, plus 4. There's no m because I had 1m and I take away 1m, so there's no m. So this is my answer. Coda. All right, so let's take a look at some of our new vocabulary for today. Today, I don't want to take more than 30 minutes with you guys because I want you guys to get done what you need to get done. And then we're going to keep working on this every day for the rest of this week. So let's see how far we can get. All right. All right. Your Edgenuity is going to show you multiple methods to do this. I'm going to show you the method that I think is easiest and best, and that is the X method. So we have different parts of our expressions that we're going to use, but to find this, we're going to have multiply. I'm getting distracted by my puppy who's chomping on something. Multiply A times C and place that on top, so just like how it's up here. And then we're going to place B on bottom. Now what you don't know is what are A, C, B, and C. We don't know what AC is, what B is. So it's going to look like this. Your first part of your expression, where you have your x squared, the coefficient or the number in front is your A. The next part of your expression, the next term, where you have x, the second term, where you just have x to the first power, is B. And last, where you have your constant, and constant means it doesn't have a variable, that is your C. So you're going to be multiplying A times C and put that guy on the top, and you're going to write the number that is B on the bottom. Then what we need to do is we're going to find two numbers that multiply to give you the number on top, to give you the top, and add to give you the number on the bottom. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the top, and two numbers that add to give you the bottom. We're going to do lots of practice on this, okay? We're going to keep going over this over and over and over again until it's in there and you guys are good to go and can do this in your sleep. All right? Okay, let's take a look at our first example. There's lots of little tricks with this because if we have a different sign for each number, then we have to look at a different way to do this. So let's take a look. I have a squared plus 6a plus 8. So I'm looking for what is A, what is B, what is C, so that I can start my X method. All right? Now, the reason why we are using X method is so that we can factor out an expression. We factor out expressions so we can find solutions to word problems and to other equations that will be given later on. So right now, this is just a stepping stone. So let's see. The number in front of my A squared is going to be A, which is 1. The number in front of A, the second term, is going to be B, which is 6. And the constant, the last number with no variable, is C, and that's going to be 8. So I'm going to draw my X here. On the top, I have A times C. A times C, so 1 times 8. And on the bottom, I have B, which is just 6. So I need to look at what numbers multiply to be 8 and add up to be 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is start listing out my factors of 8. What times what is 8? What are my factors of 8? What times what is 8? So I have, important note, it's a positive 8. So I've got to keep that in mind. Okay. I have 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And is there anything else? If you said -1 times -8 is 8, you are correct. And if you said -2 times -4 is 8, you are correct as well. Since this guy in the middle is positive, we're going to stick with our positive numbers. All right? We have 1 and 8. So if I write 1 here and 8 right here, they multiply to be 8. They multiply to be 8, but they do not add to be 6. So 1 and 8 are not it. 1 and 8 are not it. So let's go back and try 2 and 4. If I try 2 and 4, well, they multiply to be 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. So it works. 2 plus 4 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So we have a match. So now we're going to write our parentheses. Our first thing that comes first, our first term, is going to be my variable. What was my variable? A. Next, I'm going to write, since it's a positive 2 plus 2, and then my next one, I'm going to have A, it's a positive 4 plus 4. This would be my answer for factoring out this expression. So later on in the real world, you would use these two terms or these two binomials to answer questions about when does something start, when does something end. So this is just a step or just a baby step, just a foundation point for what we're going to be doing in the future. Okay? Lots of information, but we're going to keep going, okay? Let's take a look at number 2. We're going to do lots of practice problems because this is brand new and we need to make sure that we're good to go. All right? Let's zoom this in just a little bit more. I know it might be a little blurry, the numbers, but we can still read it. Okay. So let's take a look. We have n squared plus 16n plus 60. I need to label out what is A, B, and C. Of course, now you decide to. My A is 1. B is 16. C is my constant with no variables, which is 60. So I have my A, B, and C. I'm going to draw my X. On the top, I have A times C. So I have A times C, which is A times C, which is 60. And on the bottom is B, so 16. So I've got to look for what two numbers multiply to be 60 and add to give me a positive 16. So I've got to see what two numbers multiply to be 60. That's where I'm going to start. So 1 times 60 is 60. 2 times 30 is 60. What else? What are other factors? 3 times 20. 4 times 15. If you notice, all I'm doing is I'm starting with 1 and I'm going larger and larger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to keep checking until I start to repeat numbers. So I knew 1 times 60, well 2, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times, let's see if you take out a calculator. Hopefully you said 12. 6 times 10. Does 7 go into 60? Nope. Does 8 go into 60? How do you check that? 60 divided by 8. Nope. Does 9 go into 60? 60 divided by 9, does that work? Nope. So then I'm start with 10. Does 10 go into 60? Yep. So I already have 10 written. So these are my factors of 60. So I'm going to stop. So I need to look for which ones of these add up to be 16. So let's take a look. 1 plus 60, is that 16? 2 plus 30? 3 plus 20? 4 plus 15? 5 plus 12? 6 plus 10? So that means 6 and 10 are going to go right here. 6 times 10 is 60. 6 plus 10, is 16. Perfect. So now I'm going to write out my factors. My factors start with parentheses. I'm going to write my variable first. My variable is n plus my first part, 6, because it's a positive 6, n plus my second factor, which is a positive 10, so plus 10. These are my factors. Okay. We're going to look at another one. We're just going to keep practicing these over and over again until we're rock solid on them. I know a lot of you guys are going to be doing Delta Math for practice today. Delta Math has a great game activity, or it's called the X Games, but it's a great game or method or practice for you to practice how to fill out the X on the X method. So let's take a look here. We're going to move to number 3. Just a little bit more. All right, see if you can find what is A, B, and C. All right, A is the number in front of my m squared, so that is 1. Oh, I didn't have my pen on. B is the number in the middle with my m, which is 8. C is my constant. See how that works out? C, constant, they both start with C. So C is my constant, which is 15. I write out my X. Now remember on the top I have 1 times 15. What is 1 times 15? 15. And on the bottom I have my B, which is 8. So I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to be 15 and add to be 8. Multiply to be 15, add to be 8. So let's look at my factors of 15. What two numbers multiply to be 15? So I've got 1 and 15. Does 2 go into 15? What about 3? Yep. 3 and 5. Does 4 go into 15? Nope. Does 5 go into 15? Yep. But I already have 5 listed here, so I'm done. All right. So I'm now looking for what two numbers multiply to be 15 and add to be 8. Do 1 and 15 multiply to be 15? Do 1 and 15 add to be 8? No. What about 3 and 5? Do 3 and 5 multiply to be 15? They sure do. Do they add to be 8? They sure do. So 3 and 5 are my answers, are my factors. So let's look. I've got to set up my parentheses to list out my factors. My factors start with my variable. My variable is m. I am now going to write my factors plus 3 because it's a positive 3. And I'm going to have m plus 5 because it's a positive 5. This is my answer. Now think about how could you check this to make sure that n plus 3 and n plus 5 really are your answers. If you said multiply, you are exactly right. We could multiply these two together to make sure that they equal the n squared plus 8n plus 15. All right, we're going to move on and maybe get a little trickier. All right. Number 4 is a little different. What do you notice is different about number 4 than the other ones we have done? My b is a negative 5. I have to write the negative. All right? My a is just 1 and c is 4. So now when I am doing my x method and I'm checking what numbers add up to be negative 5, I've got to be careful with what numbers multiply to be positive 4. Okay, so here, let's just get started and then we'll go over a little more of that. Okay, on the top, I have 1 times 4, a times c, 1 times 4, 4. And then on the bottom, I have my b, negative 5. So I have what multiplies to be 4 and adds to be negative 5. Okay, 4. Is that a positive number or a negative number? It is a positive number. So as a positive number, that means two positives make a positive, and what else makes a positive? Two negatives. So when I'm listing out my factors of 4, I have positive 1 and positive 4 equal 4. I have positive 2 and positive 2 equal 4. But I also have negative 1 times negative 4. Does that equal a positive 4? Yep, so does negative 2 and negative 2. So I now have more options for what equals a positive 4 and what multiplies to a positive 4 and what adds to be negative 5. So let's look. 1 times 4, this first guy right here, 1 times 4, that equals a positive 4. But does 1 plus 4 equal negative 5? Nope, so this guy is out. What about 2 times 2? Does that equal a positive 4? Yes, but does 2 plus 2 equal negative 5? No. Now let's look at this next one. Negative 1 times negative 4. When we multiply those, do we get positive 4? We do. When we add them, do we get negative 5? We do. So I have that one works. Negative 2 times negative 2 does equal positive 4. But when I add them, I get negative 4, not negative 5. So this one, negative 1, negative 4, is my answer. All right? Think about how we did. We'll do another practice one like that, and we'll be practicing more like that throughout this week. Okay. Other than that, we write everything the same. It stays the same. So I have x was my variable. A was 1, so a is going to be 1. X is just going to be x. It's just going to be x. I have a minus 1 for my first factor. So I'm going to write minus 1. For my next factor, I have x. And I've got to write minus 4 because it's a minus. So minus 4. These are my factors. This is factored form. So this is what I will use later on in the future to find when something starts, when something ends, etc. All right? same thing, just throws in a little bit of a curveball with the negative, but we're good to go. I'm gonna get another email and you guys are gonna hear that. All right, so let's look at number 5. Maybe we'll be able to get through 6 of these today. Ooh, I moved it too much too fast. All right, I'm gonna erase this guy right here, just so that we can see number 5 all the way. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. We have r squared minus 13 r plus 30. What is A? One. What is B? Negative 13. And what is C? Okay, 30. Awesome. Let's write out our x. Remember, on the top we have what multiplies to be a plus c and adds. So a times c, we're going to have a times c. I'm going to do that in blue. A times c is 30. And my negative 13, which is my b, comes on the bottom. I have to include the negative. You have to include the negative. Include the negative. Do not forget the negative. Good? Okay. This one is a little bit different, but not too much. We just have a bigger number. Now I'm looking for what two things multiply to be positive 30. Remember, both two negatives and two positives equal a positive 30. So let's list out what times what equals 30. 1 times 30. 2 times 15. Okay, but before we forget, let's make sure that we know that negative 1 times negative 30 equals positive 30, and negative 2 times negative 15 equals positive 30. What else equals 30? 3 times 10. Two positives equal a positive, but also two negatives, so negative 3 times negative 10. Does 4 go into 30? No. What about 5? Yeah, 5 times 6. So we need to remember negative 5 times negative 6, because two negatives make a positive. Does 6 go into 30? Yep, but I already have it listed, so I'm going to stop there. So I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to be 30 and add to be negative 13. Will any of these positives right here add to be a negative? Will they? No, they will not. So I can automatically just forget about all of these positives, and I'm only going to look at these negatives right here. So these guys. So let's look. Negative 1 plus negative 30. Does that equal negative 13? No. Negative 2 plus negative 15. Does that equal negative 30? Plug it into a calculator. If you have Desmos opened up, all you type is negative 2 plus negative 15. That gives me negative 17. So is that negative 13? Nope, so that guy's out. What about negative 3 and negative 10? Negative 3 plus negative 10. That gave me negative 13. So this guy right here is my answer. Negative 3, negative 10. So that means all I've got to do are write out my binomials, my factors. So I have r, which is my variable, r minus 3 because it's a minus sign in front. And r minus 10 because it's a minus sign in front. This is my answer. All right. We're going to do one more. I know I hit that 30-minute mark, but we're going to do one more. I want to see, actually, we're going to save it. We're going to stop right here. I think this is a good place to start, or to stop. All right, let's go ahead. We will meet back tomorrow at 8:25, and we'll go over more of this. We're going to start working with what happens if C is negative. So we did what happens if B is negative. We're going to look at what happens if C is negative. So we're going to do some more practice problems tomorrow with that. Remember, if you're in my class, you have delta math to do, and I believe other teachers gave you delta math as well. So make sure you're looking at Edgenuity. Edgenuity is going to show you multiple ways to do this. Make sure you complete your delta math assignment, and then we will work back here tomorrow to finish up and make sure that we are good to go and finish practicing. All right, guys? Have a good day.